Centuries ago, a king ruled a country. The king had a queen, and the queen had two sons. The elder son's name was Ralph, and the younger son's name was Basand. Both the king and the queen loved their sons very much. In the garden to the left of the king's palace, a sparrow and a chickadee were busy building a small nest for a few days. The queen would watch these sparrows and chickadees every day, how hard these two worked to build a nest, and then the sparrow laid 2 eggs in it. Then after a few days, the chicks came out of these eggs. The chicks chirped for hunger every day, and both the sparrow and the chick managed their hunger together, and the queen saw this scene every day. By chance, one day the sparrow died, and the same sparrow brought another sparrow to her house. The stepmother did not like these children at all, and one day she sacrificed her life and fed the children with rice grains, which got stuck in her throat, and both the children died. The sparrow hid the news of the children's death from the sparrow, and the queen of the palace watched all this scene from the beginning. The queen of the palace was very sad to see that she was coming. She started thinking that if I died, the king would also marry again, and the stepmother would treat my children the same way. The queen was very sad about the death of these children. One day the queen went to bed with a bundle of blankets. When the king came, the king saw the queen lying like this and asked her the reason. When the king asked, the queen said, "It's better if you don't ask." The king said, "If I don't ask, who will?" Then the queen said, "First, promise me that you will do what I say. You will do the same." The king said, "I will listen to you whatever you say. Tell me what the matter is." Then the queen said, "First, promise me that if I die, you will not marry again." When the king heard this, the king said, "Rani, what kind of talk are you doing today?" Then the queen said, "I will tell you what the matter is." The king was very sad to hear the whole story of the sparrow and the sparrow. The king tried hard to explain to the queen, but the queen did not agree. Finally, the king promised that if you die, I will marry again. I will not do it. Then after a few days, the queen fell ill, and one day she passed away. At first, the king was very sad about the queen's death, but as the days passed, the burden on the king's heart became lighter, and he started forgetting this grief. Then, the cunning ministers. The ministers also surrounded the king. They forced the king to marry a second wife. At first, the king refused because he loved the queen very much. Then finally, the king was forced to. He agreed to the second marriage, and then the king married again. When the new queen found out that the king had 2 sons, she developed hatred for these boys and started thinking of ways to get them out of the palace. One day, that queen also went to bed with a pillow. When the king came to the palace, he found her lying like this. "Either you divorce me, give it to me, or expel Ralph from the country." Then the king said to the queen, "Don't worry, I will expel Ralph from the palace." Then the king wrote a note on a tablet that Ralph is expelled from the palace, and now Ralph is not allowed to enter the palace. He can leave our palace and go to another country. When Ralph and Basand returned from outside, they saw the plaque hanging outside the palace. Ralph started crying after reading the inscription and said, "First my mother left me, and now my father has also thrown me out of the palace." He said to his younger brother, "Basand, you go to the palace. I am not allowed to go to the palace." Hearing the words of his elder brother, the younger brother, he said, "The king has expelled you from the palace today, and it may happen tomorrow, who knows? That's why I am also going with you." Then they left the palace and walked towards the forest, and they walked a long way. Now they were very tired. They filled their stomachs with fruit, and now the night was very late. The younger brother Basand was feeling sleepy. The elder brother Ralph said, "Brother, you go to sleep. I will guard you." Basand fell asleep, and Ralph started guarding. Ralph had all the weapons that he used to keep with him during hunting. The moon was shining on the 14th night. All the trees, birds, and animals of the forest were visible. It was already midnight. Under the same tree under which he was sitting to rest, a parrot and a parrot came and sat on the same tree. The parrot said, "If anyone is listening, listen. Whoever eats my flesh will become a king by morning." Ralph was at first very surprised to see the parrot and the parrot talking in human language. Then the parrot said, "If anyone is listening, listen. If someone eats my flesh, he will become a king after many troubles." Ralph carefully shot these two birds. Then Ralph put an arrow in his bow and aimed in such a way that both the parrots died with a single arrow. Ralph gathered dry wood from the forest and lit a fire. He started roasting both the parrots and the parrot meat. Ralph ate the parrot meat himself and kept the parrot meat for his brother Basand. After some time, Ralph was troubled by sleep and he woke up his younger brother Basand, and then he gave him the parrot meat to eat. Basand ate the parrot meat and started guarding, and Ralph fell asleep. Basand thought to himself, "How hard my brother hunted and kept the meat for me. Now I too will hunt some good game for him." Thinking this, he got up from there in search of game. He started hunting here and there in the forest, and Ralph was sleeping alone in the forest. Seeing him sleeping alone, a huge snake came down from the top of a mango tree and, by pressing its mouth against his, took his breath away. Ralph died and the snake went away from there. Basand roamed the entire forest in search of prey but was unsuccessful, and then went to his brother Ralph's house. He came and sat down. Then, in a short while, morning came. The sounds of animals and birds began to echo throughout the forest. Younger brother Basand tried to wake up older brother Ralph, but he did not wake up because he was dead. Then, younger brother Basand started crying. Then, a thought came to his mind. I should make arrangements for my brother's burial. He set off for another country to make arrangements for his burial. As he walked, it was customary in this and many other countries that when the king of a country died, the minister would release a falcon, and the one on whose head the falcon sat would become the king. God's will was that as soon as the ministers let the falcon fly, the falcon came flying and sat on Basand's head. The Qazi and all the ministers were also walking behind. When they saw the falcon sitting on Basand's head, they came close to him and placed the crown on his head. All the ministers, the Qazis, and the courtiers stood with their hands clasped and said, "From today on, you are our king. You are our master. We will obey your every command." When Basand suddenly received the kingdom, he forgot about his brother, and on the other hand, under whose right hand Ralph, a Jogan and a Jogi passed by. When they saw a young man, they came close to him and tried to lift him up, but then they realized that the young man was dead. He was very surprised that such a beautiful young man had died. Then Jogan told him that he had not died, but that a snake had taken his breath away. Something must be done to cure him, because Jogan had taken pity on him. Jogan begged and pleaded with her husband a lot, and finally, the yogi agreed and started reading something. As the yogi read something, the same snake that had sucked Ralph's breath came out of its hole. The snake came close to him and said, "My body is burning. Save me. Save me." The yogi said, "If you want your life to be safe, give back the breath of this young man." I thought, if you want to save your life, you should return the breath of this young man whose breath you just breathed. The snake touched Ralph's mouth, returned his breath, and then left. Ralph came back to life. "But now you are completely healthy, all right?" When Ralph heard this, he was astonished. He thanked the Jogi and Jogan and left with them. The Jogi and Jogan told him that they had no one. "There's no place to go. We're here today, somewhere else tomorrow. We're a snake, but this job is very difficult. We'll take you with us. We cannot keep it, so you should go somewhere else, and yes, if you ever need us, remember us. We will definitely come to help you." Then Ralphak and his brother. There were tall buildings and walls outside the city. There were many gates to enter the city which used to be closed as soon as night fell, and watchmen used to guard those gates. Ralph pleaded the watchman a lot, but the watchman was not affected, and now you have to go to the city at night. The reality was that for the past several years, a huge lion would come out of the jungle and enter the city and attack the people. He had killed many innocent people. Ralph was a very brave and intelligent boy. He had all the weapons with which he used to hunt. He had a sword and arrows. He fought the lion bravely and killed it. The watchman took the credit of killing the lion and Ralph, and the danger of killing the lion around his neck. The king was pleased and made the watchman the minister because he had accomplished a great feat. Then one day, a moneylender he went to the country of Basand with a huge ship for his business. But his outer ship did not move at all from its place. That merchant was very worried. Then an elder told him that unless he applies someone's blood to this ship, it will not move from its place. Then the merchant said, "I cannot commit this injustice. and this is a very big injustice. But yes, if anyone wants to give his life for the greed of wealth, he is allowed to do so. On the orders of the king, Sudakar issued a ban in the entire city that no person should give his life for the greed of wealth. He started thinking that why not Ralph be given this punishment? He should be handed over to the carpenter. Then finally he handed over Ralph to that carpenter, and the carpenter started sharpening the knife. When Ralph saw the carpenter sharpening the knife, Ralph asked why some elder had given me the knife. It is said that if you shed the blood of an innocent person in this ocean, your ship will start sailing. If you steer my ship in a different way, I will leave you and will not kill you. He dropped the chains in the sea, due to which the ship moved from its place and started moving. Seeing this, Sudakar became very happy, and he told Ralph. He did not kill him but adopted him as his own son. When the Bari ship reached the shores of another country, one day the princess of that country and her friends came to the merchant to buy cloth. When she saw Ralph, she fell head over heels in love with him, as he was incredibly handsome. The princess told Ralph, "I am." When Ralph heard this, he immediately agreed. Princess immediately went to the palace and told him about Sudagar's son. I told him that she was very beautiful and that I wanted to marry her. Becha immediately ordered me to bring Sudagar and her son to the palace the next day. He came to the king's palace with Ralph. The king also liked Ralph very much, and thus Ralph got married to that princess. All the business goods of the merchant were sold, and now the merchant left that country and went to the country of Basant. But Sudagar was blinded by greed. Greed entered his heart. Poor Ralph kept sailing the ship for 3 days, and then on the 4th day, Sudagar himself started sailing the ship. Ralph was very tired due to sailing the ship continuously for 3 days. Ralph held him tightly. After flowing for many days, he reached the Sahel. Poor Ralph was hungry and thirsty for many days, so he fainted as soon as he reached the Sahel. On the bank of the same Sahel, a washerman and washerwoman were washing clothes, so the washerman kept Ralph in his house and adopted him. They adopted him as their son. When Sudagar was convinced that Ralph had drowned, he went to the ship and told Shehzadi. Shehzadi began to cry. "I will never marry you again. How can I marry a murderer? And how is it possible for a daughter-in-law to marry her father-in-law?" the merchant began. "He was my adopted son, and I was not his real father, and therefore I am not your father-in-law either." And for many days Shehzadi traveled hungry and thirsty on the same ship, crying. Then, after a few days, when that foreign ship reached the shore, "He was my adopted son, and I was not his real father, and therefore I am not your father-in-law either." And for many days Shehzadi traveled hungry and thirsty on the same ship, crying. Then, after a few days, when that foreign ship reached the shore, when he reached the shore, the news reached the washerman's house. When Ralph heard the news of the ship leaving, he took the washerman and then the princess to the washerwoman to cheer her up, and told her that take off your clothes and wear new clothes, and then the merchant himself left that room and went to the other side. Then the washerwoman said to the princess that and he is perfectly fine in our house, and his name is Ralph. When the princess heard Ralph's name, she was convinced and was very happy. Then Dupar told her that he had sent me here to find you. Then Dupar told the princess that if the merchant asks you to marry him today, tell him that I will definitely marry you. But before that, tell me about Ralph and Basand. The princess was very happy to hear this and said, "Daughter, I am going home now. I am getting very late." The maid picked up the princess's clothes and returned to her house. When she got home, she told Ralph the whole story and told him that how does the merchant force the princess to marry every day? Then the next day, when the merchant asked the princess to marry him, the princess said, "I will marry you, but I have one condition for that." When the merchant heard this, the merchant became very happy and said, "I agree to all your conditions." The merchant thought to himself that after meeting the cleaner, his heart was happy and his health had also improved. Then the princess said, "Tell me the story of Basand and Ralph." Hearing this, the merchant said, "I don't know about this story, but I can ask someone and tell it to you." Then the princess said, "You can tell this story or someone else can tell it, but I want to hear this story." Then the merchant left there in search of this story and went to many great men. Then the merchant reached the palace of King Basand and said to Basand that I want to hear the story of Ralph and Basand. because my wife is very worried, and she tells me every day that I want to hear the story of Ralph and Basand." When the king heard these two names, he remembered his brother Ralph. He also felt a desire to hear the story of Basand and Ralph. The king made a proclamation throughout the city that whoever came to the palace and told the story of Ralph and Basand would be given alms and a bath the next day. At Ralph's request, she entered the king's palace and said, "O king, my daughter can tell this story." When the king heard this, he was very happy. Then the king said, "Your daughter is allowed to come to the palace and tell us the story." After that, the king made a proclamation throughout the city that anyone who is Ralph and Basand, if you want to hear the story of the princess, then you should come to the king's palace tomorrow. King Basand spent that night very restlessly. Then the next day, the king and his ministers, who were eager to hear the story from the princess, came to the court. He wanted to marry the princess as soon as possible. He blessed the princess with a garland. Dupin had no daughter, so Ralph put on a veil and entered the king's palace. Then Dupin's daughter Ralph addressed the king and said, "Your Majesty, I have one condition." The king asked, "What is the condition? Tell me your condition." Then Ralph said, "Your Majesty, I will tell you a little about this story. Do a little, and secondly, if any man speaks while I am telling my story, you will give him the death penalty. If you agree to my conditions, then I will tell you the story." The king accepted all the conditions of the washerwoman's daughter, that is, Ralph. And then Ralph began to tell the story. When Ralph reached the part of the story where, when the snake bites him, he dies, so Ralph said, "I will tell you the next story tomorrow." Hearing this, everyone went to their homes and started thinking that everything had really happened like this. The next day, the cleaner's daughter and all the people gathered there. Then the cleaner's daughter asked for permission to tell the story. The king gave permission, and then the washerwoman's daughter, while telling the story, reached the place where Ralph was entering the city and the city watchman was not opening the gate. And there Ralph had fought and killed the lion, and the watchman had. Ralph was imprisoned and took the name of killing the lion on his head. This singer, the watchman who had now become a minister, spoke up and said, "Bache Salamat, this story is false. I killed the lion, and this washerwoman's daughter is saying that Ralph killed it." Now the watchman who had spoken while telling the story was arrested at the behest of the king, and he was given 100 lashes. When he received 100 lashes, he admitted that it was Ralph who had killed the lion, and that I had arrested him and put him in prison. This story is absolutely true. The cleaner's daughter, Ralph, said, "I will tell the rest of the story tomorrow, and then the next day everyone will hear it." They gathered to listen to the story, and Ralph started telling the story on the king's orders. When he reached the part of the story where the merchant had picked up Ralph and thrown him into the sea and was trying to force the princess to marry him, the merchant started trembling and quickly said, "Your Majesty, this is completely false. I did not throw the raft into the sea." Then the king ordered the merchant to be arrested. The soldiers arrested the merchant and, at the king's command, gave him 100 lashes. When the merchant received 100 lashes, he also admitted that he had lifted the raft and thrown it into the sea. "And the one who has come with me wearing a burqa is the wife of this Ralph." Then Ralph's wife, that is the princess, also raised her burqa and said, "I am Ralph's wife." Then the daughter of King Basandobi, "Tell me what happened next and how you know this story, which is completely true. Just raise your burqa so that I can see who you are." When Ralph removed his veil at the king's behest, Basand and all the courtiers were surprised to see him, and he said, "I am Ralph." Then the king ordered that this Sadakir be imprisoned and give him 100 lashes. Then King Basand addressed everyone and told them, "I am Basand." Then the king and Ralph embraced each other. They cried a lot because they had met each other after a long time. Then King Basand kept his brother Ralph and his wife in his palace, and they started living in his palace. Then Ralph started missing his father. After a few days, Jogan and Jogi reached the king's palace and told Ralph that your father lives in such and such a country and he is the king of that country, and he is very old and he misses you very much. When Ralph and Basant heard about their father, they remembered him and cried a lot, and they were there. Basant, Ralph, and Ralph's wife Jogan and Jogi got ready to leave for their father's country. The king met his 2 sons and was very happy. He was happy. Then after a few days the king died and the kingdom went to Ralph. Ralph became the king of that country, and Basant went back to his country, of which he was already the king. In this way, Ralph became the king of one country and the other, and in this way, both of them became kings. Ralph became king after facing many hardships, while Basant became king without any difficulty, and thus the story of the parrot and the parrot came true. Their stepmother had also died, and now they both lived in their own countries. But the kingdom has begun to reign, dear friends. I hope you liked today's video. If you liked the video, then be sure to express your opinion in the comments.